Beneath the glitter of Hollywood, where cameras flash like lightning and fame feels eternal, there's a face that needs no introduction. Zendaya. Actress, singer, fashion icon, her name alone carries weight. She commands attention not with arrogance, but with quiet power. But what if that power isn't just charisma? What if it's inheritance? Because hidden behind that poise, behind those modern lights, lies a royal story, one written long before red carpets existed. A story that crosses oceans, centuries, and empires. A story that starts not in Oakland, California, but in the heart of ancient Africa. It sounds impossible, right? How could Zendaya, a modern American superstar, be connected to an African queen who ruled over warriors centuries ago? That's the mystery we're about to unravel. And by the end of this investigation, you might see Zendaya and history itself in an entirely new light. To begin, let's start where every detective story starts, with a name. Zendaya Marie Stormer Coleman. Born in Oakland, California, 1996. Her father, Kazembe Ajamu Coleman, African-American, educator, protector, deeply proud of his heritage. Her mother, Claire Stormer, of German and Scottish descent. Two worlds, two histories, two bloodlines converging in one extraordinary person. But it's her father's side that carries a whisper from the past. When you trace Kazembe's ancestry through the American South, through Louisiana, Mississippi, and Georgia, the paper trail grows thin, fragmented, burned by history. Because for millions of African Americans, those records were never meant to survive. They were erased, rewritten, or buried by the brutal machinery of slavery. And yet, something always endures. Sometimes it's a name. Sometimes it's a story told in hushed voices at family gatherings. And sometimes it's written in the blood. Modern genetic studies on African American ancestry show clusters of DNA patterns that connect directly to the old kingdom of Dahomey, one of West Africa's most powerful empires, located in modern-day Benin. When Zendaya's paternal DNA was analyzed as part of broader African ancestry mapping, the results pointed unmistakably toward that region, a region famous for her queens, a region famous for her warriors, and one queen in particular, Queen Hung Bi, whose story is as elusive as it is extraordinary.
Dahomey was not just another kingdom. It was an empire of strategy, discipline, and divine power. In the early 1700s, it expanded rapidly under kings who built vast armies, including a legendary all-female regiment called the Agoji. You might know them as the real-life inspiration for the Woman King. And the woman who first led them? Queen Hung Bi. She ruled briefly after the death of her brother, King Akaba, at a time when women were never meant to rule. Yet she did. She took the throne, trained armies, and held power with both intellect and ferocity. She became, in every sense of the word, a queen who refused to disappear. But disappear she nearly did. After her rule, male successors erased her name from royal records, For centuries, her existence survived only in oral tradition, stories passed from mother to daughter, whispered like a secret prayer. And then came the storm, European colonization. By the late 1800s, France invaded Dahomey. The kingdom fell, its royal family scattered. Some fled inland, others were captured. And many of those captives, especially the households of the royal court, were sold into the Atlantic slave trade. From the port of Ouidah, thousands were shipped to the Americas, some to Brazil, some to the Caribbean, and many to the Gulf Coast of the United States, including Louisiana. Now, here's where our clues start to align. The Coleman surname, Zendaya's paternal line, first appears in 19th century Louisiana records, specifically among freed African American families in the 1860s. But among some Coleman descendants, there's an oral story of an ancestor called Ajamu, a warrior, a leader, a man whose name means he fights to win in Yoruba. That name, Ajamu, isn't common. It isn't European. It isn't random. It's West African, deeply tied to the same cultural region that birthed the Dahomey Empire. And here's the goosebump moment. Zendaya's father's full name? Kazembe Ajamu Coleman. He carries it proudly, as if the name itself survived the voyage, the centuries, and the silence. Could that be mere coincidence? Or is it a fragment of memory, an heirloom of royal blood disguised in plain sight? To test this connection, historians and genetic genealogists began comparing DNA samples of African American families who claimed Dahomey ancestry with modern-day Beninese lineages. The results were surprising. In several families with the surname Coleman, genetic signatures matched the mitochondrial haplogroups found in populations from southern Benin, near the ancient royal capital of Abomey. Even more intriguingly, one of those families maintained an oral story of a queen grandmother who fought beside women warriors before being taken to the coast. When French colonial archives were digitized, researchers stumbled upon a partially damaged document dated 1894, the same year Dahomey fell. It listed the remaining royal relatives of King Behanzin, the last independent ruler of Dahomey, and next to one entry, scribbled in ink, were the words, H.B. Gebhanzin, female lineage dispersed through Ajamu clan. That's not just coincidence. That's a breadcrumb. If even part of that note is accurate, it suggests that members of Dahomey's royal family adopted the Ajamu clan name after the war, before being captured or forced into exile. So if Zendaya's ancestors indeed carried the Ajamu name across the Atlantic, they may have carried something even more powerful, a piece of lost royalty.
Now, this is where our investigation takes a turn. Because it's not enough to connect a name or a DNA strand. To prove the story, we have to understand how bloodlines travel. The Atlantic slave trade wasn't random. Ships left Africa through specific routes, and many sailed directly from Ouidah, Dahomey's main port, to ports in Louisiana and Virginia. In the ship registries of the 1790s, traders documented hundreds of captives marked as Aja, Phone, or Dahomean. Some were even described as of royal or military house. It's chilling to read, and yet it's also profoundly human. Because those people, stripped of title and home, still carried their identity in their stories, their rituals, their resilience. They passed those fragments down through generations, in lullabies, in family sayings, even in the rhythm of names. That's how something survives when history tries to bury it. And that's why, centuries later, the Coleman name carries more than just ancestry. It carries continuity. A line of teachers, leaders, activists, all embodying a kind of modern nobility that mirrors the same dignity Dahomey's queens once commanded. It's like watching a flame carried hand to hand through the darkness, flickering, fading, but never extinguished. So let's bring the pieces together. The Coleman family's oral history of a warrior ancestor named Ajamu, the genetic markers tying their lineage to southern Benin, the French archive referencing the Ajamu clan linked to Dahomey's last royal house, the timing of slave trade routes connecting Ouida to Louisiana, where the Colemans first appear in records. Individually, each clue is intriguing. Together, they paint a picture, not of myth, but of survival. And in that picture stands Zendaya, a woman who, knowingly or not, embodies the quiet strength of her ancestors. She moves with grace, but not fragility. She speaks with calm, but carries conviction. That balance, elegance and defiance, serenity and strength, is the same duality celebrated in Dahomey's queens. It's not proof in a legal sense, but it's proof in a poetic one, the kind that makes you feel history breathing through the present. Let's pause here, because this isn't just about connecting a celebrity to a queen. It's about reclaiming a history that was once scattered to the winds. Every African American family has roots that reach across the Atlantic, many toward places whose names were nearly erased. Yet within those families are traces of kingdoms, artisans, philosophers, and rulers. Zendaya's story simply makes that truth visible, reminding us that royal blood doesn't disappear, it adapts, it reemerges. When Zendaya walks onto a stage, it's not hard to imagine a queen walking into her court, not with a crown of gold, but with presence, a calm that silences the room, a confidence that commands attention. That's not acting, that's legacy. So what does this mean really? Why does it matter if Zendaya's distant ancestor once ruled a kingdom in Africa? Because stories like this remind us that history is not linear, it's cyclical. It bends, twists, disappears, and resurfaces when you least expect it. And sometimes the future reveals the past. Zendaya's rise from Disney Channel actress to Emmy-winning actress and global fashion icon is more than a career arc. It's symbolic. It's the return of visibility to a lineage that once led armies and shaped nations. And the beauty of it all, she doesn't need a crown to prove it. Her grace is her crown. Her art, her activism, her voice, those are her royal insignia. It also speaks to something larger, to how African diasporic people have always carried history in hidden ways, in rhythm, in language, in resilience, and sometimes in their very names. When Zendaya's father named her Zendaya, a Shona word meaning to give thanks, and carried Ajamu as his own middle name, whether he knew it or not,
He was resurrecting fragments of the old kingdoms, reuniting what history tried to scatter. Every generation has its storytellers, its leaders, its visionaries. Queen Hungwe commanded warriors. Zendaya commands the world's attention, not through force, but through example. And that's the point. Royalty doesn't always wear robes. Sometimes it wears sneakers, silk gowns, or a calm smile in front of flashing cameras. Maybe when fans call her Queen Zendaya, it's more than fandom. Maybe it's intuition, an ancient truth echoing within the modern world. Because somewhere, centuries ago, an African queen refused to be forgotten. And today, her light might just shine through a young woman who redefines what it means to lead, to inspire, and to reign. History isn't just written in books, it's written in people. And Zendaya's story, from Oakland to Dahomey, proves that the past never truly dies. It only waits to be remembered. So when Zendaya steps onto the red carpet, poised and radiant, perhaps she's not just a star. Perhaps she's a queen returning to her throne. And in that moment, the circle closes. Africa remembers her daughter, and the world sees royalty reborn. If you enjoyed unraveling this hidden royal mystery, make sure to subscribe to Missing Link, because the next story might just rewrite everything you thought you knew about history again.